Hey everybody, you're listening to the Maine Morgue. I am your host, Jamie Santamore. This is episode 4, and before I get too far into the episode, I just want to say thank you to everybody that listens to the show. I greatly appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I love the fan interaction. I get emails from you guys saying what you like and what you don't like about the show. I'm going to be making some changes here in the next couple of weeks, making things easier for you guys, better for you guys. And I'm still looking for businesses that would like some ad space here on the Maine Morgue. Alright, so I want to start off this week by talking about what I've done over the last week. I spent this past weekend working on the outline for Sins of Man 3 Tribulation. And it was weird because I decided that I needed something to listen to while I was writing, and I got tired of listening to music, which is very strange for me. So I started listening to, on YouTube, screamographies of some of the great minds of horror. John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Joe Dante, and I hope I say this right, Guillermo del Toro were the ones that I listened to or watched. I actually wasn't looking at the screen. I had them on a back screen, listening to them while I was writing. And I learned so much from them just this weekend while I was writing. And you know, I've said it a bunch of times that John Carpenter and Wes Craven are my main influences. Carpenter for the writing style and Craven for the storytelling. And oddly enough, after this weekend, I learned a lot from listening to Guillermo del Toro, who directed Blade 2 and Pacific Rim. I didn't think that I would identify with Mr. Del Toro as much as I ended up doing. By listening to him talk about his life and his passion for filmmaking and creating monsters, he taught me a great deal, to the point I actually tweeted him to say thank you for everything that he does for fans and aspiring filmmakers like myself. Joe Dante, who directed Gremlins, taught me so much. Listening to him speak, and I mean, I love Gremlins. That's a classic movie to me, in my opinion. And I didn't realize until he said it that there were 6 years between Gremlins and Gremlins 2. I just didn't know that, because when I was a kid, I just watched them back to back all the time. I think Gremlins was one of the first movies I remember sitting through in the theaters. And I think one of the reasons I learned so much from these interviews is because I have no formal training in filmmaking. I mean, not at all. I am attending what I like to call the School of Hard Knocks film school. And most people, when you say that you don't have any formal training, they ask you, well, how can you make a movie? And I tell them that I have 2 things that are important in any business or goal in your life. Those 2 things being passion and a never quit attitude. You know, I've learned a lot in the last 2 years since I started this whole crazy adventure. I've completed 2 no-budget films, with a 3rd one due out next year. Because I have passion for this. I love to make movies. I love to create. And when things get tough, as they always do, I refuse to quit because I know I can do this. And the proof is in the 2 completed films. I mean, am I right? And I like to call what I did this weekend learning from the masters. Because I'm always looking to honor the legends that came before me, because I think I have to in many ways, whether it's naming a character after them in a story or a place. For example, the college in my story is Cunningham College, named after Sean S. Cunningham, the man who directed Friday the 13th. I'm going to take a short break, do a little ad space here for Granitz's Photography, and I'll be back with segment 2. You're listening to the Maine Morgue. Welcome back to the Maine Morgue. I am your host, Jamie Santamore. Segment 2 this week is going to be centered around the announcement I made last week on cinemamovie.com and on YouTube. The video basically divulged to the world that I would be officially stepping down as director of Sins of Man 3 Tribulation, which is our final film in the Sins of Man trilogy. And there are a few reasons that I decided to step down. Mainly because I wanted to create the best possible movie with the resources we have available to us. And the best way for me to do that is to concentrate on the storytelling and the writing of the script. And I want to be 100% clear with everybody. I was not forced out by anyone. This was a decision that I came to on my own after conversing with the person I selected to take my place as director. And I laugh whenever people email me and ask me if I was booted from the project. Because I am the owner and the founder of Wicked Carnival Productions. Sins of Man is my screenplay, my idea, so who exactly would force me off the project? I mean, it's my own project. And it's comical when you stop and think about it that way. I made this choice because it is what is best for business, it is what is best for the project and the franchise. And I'm leaving the directing up to a much more qualified person, that being Chris Fife, who is my executive producer on the first two movies, my cameraman, my audio guy, my sound guy, my music man. He does so much behind the scenes that I think he will do a much better job than I can as the director of Sins of Man 3 Tribulation. Now, I'm not walking away from the project completely. As I stated in the announcement, I'm writing the script. I'm staying on as script supervisor, so I will be there on set every day. And I'm staying on as a producer, so I will have somewhat of creative influence on the project. And Chris and I get along amazingly, so I don't think there will be any issues whatsoever with us having conversations on set. I don't think it'll get heated at all. And I think he's going to deliver an amazing film. I'm 100% sure that he can do this. And I know he's going to make an awesome film to finish off the Sins of Man trilogy. I'll be right back after a word from another one of our sponsors. You're watching the Maine Morgue. Welcome back to the Maine Morgue. In segment 2 this week, I want to discuss some movies, movie quotes, how I watch movies, and how I'm affected by them. Now, I'm going to go on record here and say something that isn't going to surprise any of my listeners. I love movies. Horror, action, comedy, sci-fi, rom-coms, drama. I love it all. I mean, some of my favorite movies span across genres. Everybody thinks, oh, he's just a horror guy. And, you know, that's true if you look at my filmography with Sins of Man Rise of Mortis and Sins of Man 2 Tribulation, and our third film being Sins of Man 3 Tribulation. There is going to be a sci-fi movie. Who knows, there might be an action movie or a drama or a rom-com in our future. Who knows? I've recently been watching the, like I said in the last segment, the screenographies. And I don't know if I want to be streamlined as just a horror director, or if I want to just be known as a director. Like I said, I'm not going to direct part 3, but I'm not done directing movies yet. I will get back on the horse eventually. So getting back to topic, I love movies, I really do, and I have this really weird, strange, odd habit of quoting movies in everyday conversations. It's both a blessing and a curse, and I will give you an example. I loved the movie Deadpool and didn't know anything about the character other than what I learned in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which was complete shit. But anyways, I love that the standalone Deadpool movie. starring Ryan Reynolds, who was just fucking brilliant in this movie. And I quote that movie all the time. There's several quotes. It's time to make the chimmy fucking chungas is one of my things that I write it on Facebook a lot when it's time to go to work. But somebody the other day just caught me off guard, told me I needed to watch my language. So I looked at them and hollered back, "Suck a cock," which is a direct quote from Deadpool. That gets me in trouble more often than it should. You know what I mean? My wife and I will do it almost 9 times out of 10. If I say the word Jesus out of frustration or being scared, my wife will say to me, "Jesus has nothing to do with this place," which is a direct quote from Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which is actually one of my favorite films in the series. Now I want to talk a little bit about how movies affect me. And they affect me differently than most people. I took a class back in high school called Film History and Appreciation. I believe the teacher's name was Mr. Burgoyne. Brilliant man. Local actor. I think he passed away a couple of years ago. Not sure. But he did a post office ad once, and I thought it was brilliant. But anyways, he taught the class, and from being in that classroom, I learned to watch movies a different way. And when I started making films, I again changed the way I watch films. Now, when I'm watching a movie, even if it's a movie I've seen 100 times, most fans will say, "Geez, I wonder how they did that." I'll sit here and go, "Oh, they should have used more corn syrup. The blood should have been thicker there." And I'll make little critiques, and my wife now will no longer watch movies with me if I'm going to do that. So I just write it down in a little notebook as notes for say, "Oh, well, just I could do this or I could do that." I watch movies now as a teaching tool. And, you know, people outside the filmmaking business or writing business or makeup effects business probably don't watch movies like that. And does that make me weird? Probably. That's why I don't watch movies in theaters, to be honest with you, because I critique them too much. And it's not like a negative critique. It's not like I'm sitting in a theater yelling, "Oh, this movie sucks." I'll be like, "Oh, I would have done that differently." Or I would have changed the lighting in this scene. Things like that. You know, I tell people all the time, as an indie filmmaker, I feel that I have to have a vast knowledge of the horror icons of my past, or of the past, and pay tribute to them and respect to them in ways such as, and I'm going to touch on this in a later segment, I often will write characters and name them after characters in other horror classics. I will name places after horror creators or characters. The college in, like I said, the college in Rigor Mortis is Cunningham College. The town where my state police office is Springwood, which is one town over from Sandy Creek, where the first movie took place. There are several instances where characters are named after either real-life people or their characters that they played. And it's just something I do to honor those that came before me. A lot of people will say that that's not creative and that I'm stealing something or whatever, and quite frankly, I don't really care. It's what I do to pay respects to those that came before me. I have the utmost respect for anybody that's ever made a movie, been in a movie, because I know how hard it is. You know, and something that I didn't know, this was just brought to my attention recently, that it apparently is the goal of every independent filmmaker to put new, fresh shit out in all of our movies. And this is expected to be done on little to no budget. Now think about this for a second, folks. Just think about this. Hollywood has millions, hundreds of millions of dollars invested in these movies, in their movies. And they can't come up with anything new, fresh, exciting, okay? But a guy like me, running Wicked Carnival Productions out of a home office in a small town like Bridgeton, Maine, is supposed to come up with fresh new shit with no money for a budget. How is that supposed to work exactly? You think about that. We're going to take a quick break and listen to another ad, and I'll be back with segment 3. You're listening to the Maine Morgue. I'll be right back. This is just a friendly reminder. You can pick up Wicked Carnival Productions' first feature film, Sins of Man Rise of Mortis, at bullmoose.com and at Bull Moose locations throughout the state of Maine. Once again, that's Sins of Man Rise of Mortis, available at bullmoose.com. And now, back to the Maine Morgue. Welcome back to the Maine Morgue. Segment 3 this week is going to be about movies, of course. Quote-unquote timeless classics and how movies, quote-unquote, age well. I was reading some comments on YouTube, and I don't remember what website it was, because I read a lot of the comments about from what fans say and think about movies. It might have been YouTube, it might have been IMDb, I don't remember. And one guy was saying that it wasn't funny, and that he would have rated it higher had the studio taken out all the comedy bits. And prior to saying these statements, the person wrote that he didn't read comics, and he wasn't a fan to begin with. And that translates to me that he didn't understand the breaking the fourth wall in Deadpool. He didn't know anything about the character before seeing the movie. Now, I don't read comic books, but I watch all the comic book movies because I like them. I had no knowledge of Deadpool other than X-Men's Origin Wolverine, like I said in the last segment. But when I sat down and watched Deadpool, I was blown away by it. It was funny, it was fresh, and new in many ways that other superhero movies simply can't fucking do. And that's just the truth. You wouldn't see this shit in an X-Men movie, or Superman, or Batman, or the Avengers. Deadpool is his own character. Deadpool is his own best friend, his own worst enemy in a lot of ways. The story was solid, and I really enjoyed the overall viewing experience of Deadpool. And unlike most people I've talked to, I liked the character Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I thought she was kind of funny in her quips with Deadpool. And I loved, and believe it or not, I liked Cyclops in this movie, where he didn't really do much. He was just there for kind of comic relief, which you need a lot of when you have Deadpool as your star. And I thought both Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead brought something unique to the Deadpool world. I'm very excited to see Deadpool 2. I'm excited to see how they introduce Cable and how that's all going to work. So, don't write things online if you don't understand what you're talking about, because Deadpool isn't for everybody. He's not Batman, he's not Superman, he's not Green Lantern, he's not a mainstream superhero. It takes a special kind of fan to enjoy Deadpool. That's all I'm going to say. Another person on the same, I think it was the same website, posted a question: will the movie age well? This gets me going every time I read this about any movie. It really does. And the thing that bothers me is, who really cares if a movie ages well? There aren't many quote-unquote timeless classics out there, folks. Wizard of Oz, Casablanca, Gone with the Wind. And modern film is so different than the films of yesterday, the ones I just mentioned. I mean, think about this for a second, okay? Timeless classics, to me, in our modern era, are films that get anniversary releases. Films like, and I'll use horror as my basis, Halloween is a timeless classic. It gets something released every 5 years. You know, like 35-year anniversary. The 40th anniversary is coming up in 2 years. I know because I'm the same age as Halloween. Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street is another film that holds up in the horror genre. Star Wars, Star Trek, which, by the way, Chris, I said that right, Star Trek. I said that right just for you this week, because we had a whole argument on set one day, because I kept calling it Star Trek, and it's actually Star Trek. Thank God my brother isn't alive. I'm surprised he didn't strike me dead with lightning. My brother was the biggest Trekkie ever that I can think of. Okay, now, getting back to movies aging well, I'm sorry I segued there. I do that a lot. Try having a conversation with me. Thinking about timeless classics, and think about how many movies come out every single weekend. Or a year. Hundreds of movies are released in theaters every year. And how many of them become timeless classics? Not many. Do you think it's the goal of a studio to make every movie they come out with a classic piece of cinema history? Hell no, come on now. No, they're in this to make money. Now, I'll throw the pendulum my way. Do I worry that Sins of Man, Rise of Mortis will never become a timeless horror classic? Not at all. I don't lose any sleep about it at all, to be completely honest with you. Do I want people to watch the movie? Of course I do. Do I want people to watch it in the future? Yes, and that's the beauty of DVD and Blu-ray, because that movie will be here as long as you have a DVD player. You know, a movie idea that puts an ass every 18 inches and makes money will always win out over a timeless classic in a studio's mind, because it's all about the money for Hollywood studios. And that's just being honest, folks. I can't put it any simpler than that. Studios don't worry about timeless classics, and fans are the ones that make movies classics and want the anniversary discs. And if there's a market for it, the studio puts it out. I'm going to take a short break, do another advertisement, and I will be back with segment 4 of the show. You're listening to the Maine Morgue. Check out the official website for Wicked Carnival Productions at wickedcarnivalproductions.com. There you will be able to read our blogs, watch our videos, movie reviews, catch up on all things Wicked Carnival Productions, all things Sins of Man. We would greatly appreciate your support, and please check out wickedcarnivalproductions.com. Now back to the Maine Morgue. Welcome back. I'm going to wrap up the show this week by talking about the pain of writing outlines, but why I feel they're ultimately necessary in the creative process. And then I'm going to end the segment with a few things that I didn't get a chance to talk about last week in terms of television. So I'm going to be right up front, folks, and say that I absolutely fucking hate writing outlines. Hate it. It's a long process. It kills me to write them because I'm a very quick thinker, but not a quick writer. And what I mean by that is my brain works 100 times faster than my fingers. So I could have 10 ideas in my head, and I'm still on the first idea when I'm typing. And you know, I struggled with it for, I struggled with it for a very long time, writing outlines, to the point where I stopped doing it. And I would just go right from, okay, idea, killer, places, names, kills, boom, I start writing the story. I start writing the script right away without anything. And I wrote several movies like that before I realized that, okay, maybe I should give this outline thing another try. So I said, okay, when I start writing Sins of Man 3, the final version, because we changed so much from part 1, part 2, from the original writings, I'm going to write an outline. I just knew I needed to write an outline. So I was sitting with my grandfather-in-law, Gene, on 4th of July weekend on his front porch, and we were talking, and I just had an idea. So I pulled out my phone and pulled up the notebook and started writing just a little log line and a couple of little things. And a note said, urgent, work on this when you get home. So later on that night, I sat down, sat at the computer, started typing. I wrote out, the characters, the killer, the places the story would take place, the kills, little tidbits, and then I started working on the outline, filling in the blanks. And 4 days later, I had a completed outline from beginning to end that made sense for this movie. And I found a way to write outlines that works for me. Finally. So like I said at the beginning of the show, I started working, I believe it was last week, on Sins of Man 3 Tribulation. And I'll write something, and I've written 57 scenes in my outline for the script, and I'll write something and go, that's not going to make it into the movie. You're going to end up cutting that. And I just write it anyways, because you never know, I might get another idea off it later on. Which is really interesting to me, because before I would just write, if you're not going to use it in the movie, don't fucking write it, because you're just wasting time. Now I'll allow myself, when I'm in the outline process, to say, you know what, that is a completely bullshit, ridiculous idea, but you know what, write it down anyways, because you might be able to build on it and make it not such a ridiculous idea. And, writing the outline for Tribulation is interesting, it's fun, it's exciting, because I know the characters so well now. The returning characters from Vengeance to Tribulation. And the new characters, I now know how they fit into the story better than I did when I wrote the characters out. I'm like, oh, how the hell is that character going to fit in this fucked up story? And as I started writing, I'm like, I can plug that character in right here, and they can be this to this person. And it's just an amazing way for me to work and create. And I've done so much work in the last, since the beginning of the weekend to now. Here we are on very early Wednesday morning. I've got so much done that I know, okay, now I can hit the big points of the story and hammer it home and be finished. Which means I can finally start writing the script, which means I can get the cast that's coming back from part 2 to part 3 off my back so they can finally read the script, which is a great feeling. I will tell you right now, when your cast that's coming back from the second part of your franchise to the final part is interested and excited and really wants to read the script, as a writer, you're doing something right. Now, to end the show, I want to do a little bit of talking about what you guys email me. And you guys don't email me a whole lot other than to say that you like the show or you dislike the show. You like this segment, you don't like that segment. Like, I don't talk about wrestling much anymore. Because, not that I don't watch it, I do. But with so much going on with Wicked Carnival Productions and the movies, and we're getting ready to release Sins of Man 2 Vengeance on DVD on Halloween through Bull Moose and bullmoose.com, that I don't have time in my podcasts to cover wrestling right now. I will bring those segments back to the show later on. And I'm thinking about adding like something where I'm talking about comic book movies. But mostly lately it's been about filmmaking and things I've learned and experiences I've had. And you guys seem to really be responding to that, so I'm going to continue to do those things. But by all means, if there's something you want me to talk about, send it to me and write in the email the subject, Maine Morgue podcast segment idea or segment idea, and that way I'll know that that's what it is, and I'll read it and I'll see if I can put it into a future show. Also, I want to wrap up this week's show by talking about the Scream TV series, and somebody asked me directly why I don't talk about that show on this podcast. because I have taken the name of the podcast from that show. I just added the name Maine to it. And I actually just watched the latest episode tonight. It was on at 10 o'clock. I don't talk about that show because I'm not a spoiler guy. I hate spoilers, and I don't want to ruin the show for anybody, but I will say you're probably going to have to watch this show twice to get everything. I did. I watched it twice, and I really enjoyed the show. I love the show, and I really hope, and I think I've said it before even on the show, I hope that they bring it back for a season 3, even though it's got reportedly poor ratings. I think wrapping it up in a season 3 would be just fucking brilliant. Another show I'm looking forward to seeing is Scream Queen Season 2, because I'm a huge Emma Roberts fan. I love Emma Roberts. I think she's funny in that show. I think she's scary in that show. I really think she could be a killer in that show. Obviously she did kill people last season, but, completely by accident. Yeah, if that's even possible. Another show, I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys about Arrow and Flash and Gotham and Legends of Tomorrow, and really I'm looking forward to talking about Supergirl. And I don't know if you guys are coming of age show fans, but Seventh Heaven, the guy that played Martin on that show, is the new Superman for Supergirl. And when I first heard this, I was like, oh, really? Not that I'm not a fan of his, but I just like, wow, they could have gotten somebody different. Like they picked the girl that plays Supergirl, and like I hadn't seen her before in much of anything, I don't think. And so that was like, wow, that's cool. But this guy, I hope he does good with the role. I hope they give him some stuff that he can really work with. I'm not going to say he's going to be horrible, because I was very adamant about not liking Ben Affleck as Batman, and watching that movie, I was proved very, very wrong. I actually love Ben Affleck as Batman. So, I look forward to what the future holds for the Maine Morgue, what we're going to do with the show. I'm possibly going to get a co-host, somebody that I can banter with back and forth. I would really like that. I think it would be interesting. Not that I don't like talking to you guys just by myself, but I think it would be interesting, and most podcasts that I listen to have co-hosts or guests. That's another thing I want to start doing. I'm going to have to get some better equipment before I can have guests on. But those are all things that I'm looking forward to and going to try to do here on the Maine Morgue. I'm going to take off. Thank you guys so much for listening. I greatly appreciate it. If I don't have listeners, I really can't do the show, so thank you so much. I'll be back next week with another episode. Stay humble, stay hungry, everybody, and I'll catch you next week.